80% of companies, of growing companies, have a first day checklist. So just show up to the job and you got a checklist of here's what you do. Versus companies that didn't experience growth, so flat and down year, 66% of those have a checklist. So again, ridiculously simple thing, a first day checklist. I think we might sound like a little bit like a broken record on the last one. Explain the gap from 66% to 80%. What's that? 14% more likely to be a growing company, but just having a first day checklist in place.
Yeah, and I'm going to take a little professional license here, because this is the next thing that I'm going to knock off with a client, right? I'm going to do an HR assessment. And one of the first things I look at in that HR assessment is, do you have a checklist for the first day, right? For the onboarding, et cetera. And I'll look at them. So those 66, very often, Mike, I'll look at that checklist and say, okay, you're missing some compliance forms, right? So I'm always going to look for compliance, and I'm going to look for best practices, culture, engagement, right? And then, so what I'll add to that is, hey, what do you do to welcome them? I see a lot of robotic things on this checklist, which are great. I see compliance things like I need to, call IT and make sure that their computer's working, right? Give them their email address, show them the bathroom, things like that. But do you also have that on that checklist that you give them some organizational swag, right? Give them a coffee mug with your company name on it. Give them a gift card to go get Starbucks. Take them to lunch, right? Is that on the checklist? Did you schedule lunch with the manager, with a mentor, with the owner, et cetera? Yeah. So beyond the compliance piece, what are you doing to engage that employee right away? Everybody can remember their first day at work, right? Again, you have one chance to make a first impression. Make sure it is compliant, right? I'm always going to stand on that pillar. And then I'm going to switch to, how are you engaging that client, that employee, right off the bat, right? So besides all that compliance stuff, what's the training schedule? How does it look for their first week, first month, first 3 months? So you retain that employee so they don't get overwhelmed in those first couple of weeks and go, this is too much. There's plenty of jobs out there. They're disorganized. I'm out.
Yeah.
So super important for retention and engagement and setting expectations. And of course, the compliance piece.
Yeah. And again, chicken versus the egg. If you have a crappy first day planned, and no one intentionally plans a crappy first day, but if you don't have a plan, they may or may not have their laptop ready. They may or may not have a lunch scheduled, or other coworkers in the office that day that they can actually formally meet, or they expected to just kind of rub elbows with each other at the water cooler on lunch break. I mean, it's not the artifact of the checklist. It's the fact, do you have a plan? Because if you have a plan, that just by definition, you've thought about it, right? And if you've thought about it, you're trying to make their first day, meaningful and memorable. And I think so. It's probably not that. Again, it's not the artifact of the checklist. It's the attitude that goes into creating a checklist. Okay.
100%.